Mike Sempervive here with you for the next hour talking about professional wrestling, which is something we do every single day here on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Tune in, iHeart, American Forces Radio, Cable Radio Network 2, sportsbyline.com, over-the-air affiliates. Maybe you're listening via podcast or video streaming on Twitch or YouTube. However you're joining me today, I'd just like to say thank you. Hopefully wherever you are, it's sunny outside, and even if not, hopefully it's sunny inside your mind. Hopefully it's sunny for Bryan at the fair today. That's where he is. He'll be back on the show on Tuesday. Why? Because it's Labor Day here in the United States of America coming up on Monday, so there will not be a show. I'm going to make you have to go over and be a subscriber to WrestlingObserver.com so you can check out Bryan and Dave on Wrestling Observer Radio, but I'll get into that a little bit later on. It's another really busy weekend, so everybody get ready. WWE's week-long European adventure is now wrapping up. Comes to a close on Saturday with Bash in Berlin, but we got to get through SmackDown first. The show's already in the can from Berlin's Uber Arena, the same building that Saturday's PLE is going to emanate from. I'll give you the no spoilers preview of tonight's show, as well as running down tomorrow and giving you my predictions. On Sunday, in Denver, is the NXT No Mercy PLE, which features TNA's Joe Hendry in the main event against Ethan Page for the NXT title. Speaking of TNA, tonight, they're running their live Emergence special on Impact Plus, where Chase Hughes, Riley Osborne will be involved in the Ultimate X match. Also tonight, New Japan Pro Wrestling's Capital Collision show, where Filthy's at right now, getting ready for battle. Either that or he's teaching Mina Shirakawa the bear pose, one of the two. But last night, Filthy was in Queens, New York for MLW's Summer of the Beasts event, which streamed live on YouTube. The Opera Cup semifinals are now set. Also this weekend, AEW Rampage, Collision, NWA's got an anniversary show, World Wrestling Council's got an anniversary show, plus the unfortunate passing of Villano V. All Japan's Suwama is sidelined indefinitely. Ratings, news, and a whole lot more when we get back. Wrestling Observer Live. On the show, Mike Sempervive here with you. We do this show right here, Wrestling Observer Live, for an hour at a time every single day. But if you want us 24/7, you can find us on Twitter/X. I am at Sempervive. Tom is at Filthy Tom Lawlor. Brian is at Bryan Alvarez. The website is at WONF4W, and the broadcaster is at Sports Byline USA. Jim Valley will be here with you on Saturday starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. At least I think so. I don't know if he wants to go head up with Bash in Berlin or not. I don't know. We'll find out. But Sunday, Andrew Zarian's going to be joining you at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, I think. Maybe he doesn't want to go head up with NXT. We'll find out. One thing is for sure, if you need the wrestling news, not only can you go to WrestlingObserver.com, you can go to TheWrestlingNews.com, make the wrestling news part of your day wherever you find your favorite podcasts, or head on over to TheWrestlingNews.com and at WrestlingNewsAV on Facebook and Twitter. Every single day of the year, everything you need to know to get your day started, get you up to date, or get you to your favorite long-form review pod like Wrestling Observer Radio. And if I'm not mistaken, another one of those is going to be up this evening for subscribers with Dave Meltzer and Garrett Gonzalez talking about everything in this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter. One of the things I know Dave is going to be talking about, and it is a sad story to start the show, but I did want to mention it and get it out of the way early here. Unfortunate news, if you grew up watching Lucha Libre or WCW in the 1990s and 2000s, you'd know this dude, Raimundo Diaz Mendoza Jr., who wrestled under a mask for nearly 25 years as Villano V passed away yesterday at the age of 62 years old. The Record newspaper in Mexico is reporting that Mendoza died of a massive heart attack at his home and was found by his three sons. Two of Mendoza's sons, Villano V Jr. and Rocambole Jr., followed their father into the family business. Mendoza is the son of legendary luchador and six-time NWA World Light Heavyweight Champion Ray Mendoza, and along with his four brothers, formed the Masked Villanos team. Prior to taking on the Villano V persona in the mid-1980s, he wrestled as Rocambole for most of the first decade of his career, which began in 1975. Over the years, he appeared for every single major Mexican promotion, held the UWA World Light Heavyweight title on 2 occasions, held tag team gold all over the place, almost always with one of his brothers, especially Villano IV. During the latter half of the 1990s, he appeared regularly in WCW as part of the major influx of Mexican workers that came in during that period, although, unfortunately, even though those guys made a lot of money, they were typically used as enhancement talent and kind of played for fools. He ended up getting unmasked after losing a mask versus mask match with Ultimo Guerrero in March of 2009, where he continued to wrestle under the name Ray Mendoza Jr., went into semi-retirement in 2013, was into acupuncture, I believe was his business, but had a match only 2 weeks ago, as Rocambole broke out that persona for a Mexican independent promotion. That match against Ultimo Guerrero is good. The match he had the year before, or a couple of months before, at the 75th anniversary show for CMLL on September 19th, 2008, when he faced Blue Panther, and a lot of people thought he would be the one losing his mask. It wouldn't be Panther. Panther was seconded by Mystico, and Villano V had the late Perro Aguayo Jr. in his corner, and it was a different hair versus hair anniversary match than you usually see in Mexico, because the first 2 falls ended up being disqualifications, and then ultimately Villano V got the victory. I'd argue that that's probably the most notable singles match. It's certainly at least the most easily accessible singles match I think he had out there. He did have some good times in WCW, and those matches are easily accessible as well too. But again, it was just the nature of the beast at that point in WCW. Most of those guys who were not named Juventud Guerrera or Rey Mysterio Jr. were not going to get a whole lot of shine there. So unfortunate news to begin the show, but a brilliant career for Villano V, who passed away yesterday at the age of 62 years old. So move on into everyone's favorite news, ratings. And the reason why is, got a lot to get into here coming up this weekend, but going to need some time to go through some of these lineups and give you some predictions on what's going to take place. So I'll get some of this other stuff out of the way early, including the ratings. This past Wednesday's AEW Dynamite drew a total audience of 691,000 viewers to TBS, as reported by Programming Insider. That's down 7,000 viewers from the week before. The rating in the 18 to 49-year-old demographic was a .22, also down from last week's demo rating of .24. If you subscribe to WrestleNomics, you've already seen the charts. For both NXT and AEW Dynamite, they both basically flatlined. They both lost a little bit in the second quarter, but very little. And they just both kind of sailed along there. Ultimately, they both lost viewers overall during the overrun segments. A lot more for AEW in this case, but in a little bit of better news for AEW, this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter is reporting that the preliminary numbers for All In are in, the pay-per-view buys, that is, 167,000 to 173,000 are estimated as of now. That includes both streaming and linear TV. That is up considerably, or would be up considerably, from June's Forbidden Door, which was estimated to have done about 120,000 buys. I've been covering Japanese wrestling. I think next year is going to be like the 22nd or 23rd year that I've been covering New Japan Pro Wrestling. And that Forbidden Door show, I don't care what you do, with the exception of certain years, I believe it's always going to be probably the lowest bought show that they do. We'll find out. Things are going to be mixed up next year when it comes to the scheduling of some of these shows. That number, the 167 to 173,000, places it behind March's Revolution show, or the Revolution show in March, I should say, which did an estimated 180,000 buys for Sting's retirement match, and that is their top-selling pay-per-view of the calendar year so far. Obviously, next weekend we're going to have All Out. Then we're going to have Wrestle Dream coming up in October, and on through World's End at the end of the year. One thing I didn't mention in all of the stuff that's going to be taking place this weekend at the beginning of the show, I don't think I mentioned that AEW Rampage is tonight. Why mention that? Well, I'll get to it in a minute. It's going to be on TNT. Matches taped on Wednesday at State Farm Arena in Champaign, Illinois. Three-way tag team match, Private Party against Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, and Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. Mina Shirakawa against Missa Kate. Grizzled Young Veterans against the Outrunners, Nyla Rose against Amina Belmont, and the main event is a four-way with Konosuke Takeshita against Commander against the Beast Mortos against Leo Rush. A banger for sure in the main event. I do wonder if that show ends up doing better numbers, at least for how it usually does, as compared to Saturday's Collision. Live on TNT, Saturday night, Denny Sanford Premier Center in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I did not see any matches announced for this show as of yet. I could have absolutely missed it, but I don't know if it'll matter. It's the first full schedule of college football games, and there aren't many marquee matchups, but it's just a matter of sheer volume, and both Collision and Bash in Berlin will have to compete with that. Obviously, the numbers for Collision are made public, so we're going to know how it affects them. It's going head-to-head with the most notable game on Saturday, which is 7th-ranked Notre Dame against number 20 Texas A&M. That will not only air on ESPN, but also on ABC as well. Yesterday evening, WrestleTix tweeted an update on where ticket sales stood for the show. There were 2,387 distributed out of a setup of 3,172, so 785 tickets remain available. They sold 816 since their last update on August 20th. The largest building in the state of South Dakota, seats up to 12,000. Why they didn't use the smaller Sioux Falls Arena, which is 5,000, I don't know. Got WWE SmackDown, Bash in Berlin, NXT No Mercy, and a whole lot more to get into when we get back. Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive here with you, Wrestling Observer Live, trying to get you ready for this busy weekend we got here coming up. WWE SmackDown, taped this afternoon. Might be over with right now for all I know. Taking place in Berlin at Uber Arena. Airs tonight on Fox. No spoilers here. Haven't even looked at the ongoing results, so I'll just give you what was available before the show started. Andrade against Carmelo Hayes. Their never-ending series that Andrade leads 2 matches to 1. That's going to take place. Baron Corbin against Santos Escobar. United States title, LA Knights Open Challenge, and a women's world title street fight between Nia Jax and Michin. Hell of a dark match is also scheduled. You know how they went over to Japan and they released the Stephanie Vacker match? I want to see this one. Ilya Dragunov and Sheamus against Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser is the dark match, apparently, for everybody that's at the building. I hope they put that one up on WWE Vault or whatever it is. Bash in Berlin is on Saturday. Again, also from Uber Arena in Berlin. 6 p.m. start time for those of you in the UK. 1 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. 10 a.m. on the West Coast. I love this. Second straight week in a row that we get a pay-per-view at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I love this. I love this so much. WWE Women's Tag Team title, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn defend against Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn need those tag titles a lot more than Bianca and Jade. That's for sure. They do. Would it be better for Bianca and Jade to have those titles? Maybe. Probably would be better for viewers. I like Alba and Isla, but obviously Bianca and Jade, bigger stars, a little bit more aura going on there. So if they win the titles, that gives them the opportunity to show up on Raw, gives them the opportunity to show up down in NXT. So it could go either way here. I'm actually for keeping the belts on Alba Fire and Isla Dawn and having somebody do something to Bianca and Jade. Not exactly Blair Davenport. I don't know if that's run its course yet, but do something to get them involved in something else that can be done either one-on-one or a tag situation with them. Keep the belts on Alba Fire and Isla Dawn because, to me, the more that they get reps, the better they are to me as a team. Kaylee Ray, Alba Fire, a lot of experience for a long time. Isla Dawn was over in NXT UK for quite some time. Comes over here. You know, it's been kind of hit and miss. The more she's actually in the ring, the more people get to see them as a team. I think that's going to be good. I mean, WWE on both the men's and the women's side, they have a lot of tag teams, but they don't have a lot of over tag teams. They don't have a lot of tag teams that have a whole lot of confidence built up in them from the fans. So, to me, keep the belts on Alba and Isla for right now. Next tag team match, Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley against Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan. Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley have got to win this. All of Judgment Day can run in all that they want. Maybe some special guest can make an appearance. I don't know. Where's Bad Bunny at right now? Maybe he can offset Carlito, or something like that. But however it goes down, I know one thing's for sure. Rhea Ripley is going to get her hands on Dominic Mysterio, and Rhea Ripley is going to throw around Dominic Mysterio. And even though WWE doesn't do these things, I would have Rhea Ripley beat Dominic Mysterio. You can do it in some sort of way where Damian Priest actually lays the hammer shot down on Dominic after he's already beaten down a little bit, and then Rhea can hit him with with whatever and get the pin, and Dominic doesn't lose anything. Look, even if you had Rhea just beat him, I don't think Dom's going to lose any heat or anything like that, especially as he's teamed up with Liv Morgan, but I don't know. Because WWE usually does things in the way that they do them, maybe it's Rhea Ripley that gets the final shot on Dominic Mysterio and Damian Priest ends up covering him for the victory. Strap match, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. It used to be called the Indian strap match. Can't say that anymore. Native American strap match, maybe we'll go with that. How about Wahoo McDaniel's specialty match? Loved Wahoo McDaniel. Much better strap matches than, say, Jay Youngblood would have. Although, who was it? Dustin Rhodes? Was it Dustin and Cody had a hell of a strap match, if I recall correctly. I know there's been one here recently in the past couple of years that was really, really good. Punk and McIntyre ought to be great. I'm hoping it's great. I'm hoping without Seth Rollins there, yes, we do have the specter of the bracelet and all that sort of stuff. Fine, whatever. Who cares? When they get in there, they ought to beat the hell out of each other. I'm betting the Blade is going to be involved, because if the Blade is involved in any of these 5 matches, this should be the one. The gimmick match should be the one that it's in. And I think the result of this, it's just a very old school thing to do, but I think it would be the most intelligent thing to do in this situation, and that is Drew McIntyre is beating down Punk, beating him down. He gets him, he wraps up his throat, he pulls him over his shoulder to kind of hang him, and Drew goes over to the first turnbuckle and slaps it, and as he turns, CM Punk hits it. Drew goes to the second one, taps it. Punk, who's laying there choking behind him, he touches it. Go to the third one, same thing. When you get to the fourth one, CM Punk turns it around. He taps it. He gets the victory. He passes out. Once the match is over, he's laying there in a heap. Drew McIntyre will be out of his mind. You can have Drew McIntyre beat him down afterwards if you want. You can have Drew McIntyre go on Raw on Monday and complain about how the referee counted it wrong or whatever you want to do. CM Punk, to me, should get the victory here in this type of match and make it in a way where Drew McIntyre can say it's a fluke. Drew McIntyre can say he has an out. Drew McIntyre can do something to not lose any heat, although I don't think that there's a shot that those two can lose any heat at all as long as you hand them microphones. I'm giving CM Punk the victory here. Undisputed WWE Universal title, Cody Rhodes against Kevin Owens, and the WWE World Heavyweight title, Gunther against Randy Orton. I would assume Gunther and Randy Orton is the main event of this show. I would hope that it is the main event of this show. What's interesting about both is you have both Kevin Owens and Randy Orton in situations where they could turn on Cody Rhodes at some point on SmackDown. I don't see Owens beating Rhodes, because why? Same thing with Randy Orton and Gunther. They're going to be both really, really good matches, but I believe that both are just going to go on and tell further stories with Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and with Cody Rhodes, and with this whole looming wonder if anybody is going to turn on Cody. Randy Orton kind of hinted at that. Kevin Owens picked up the title belt last week on SmackDown, marched over. A lot of people thought he was going to hit Cody with it, but no, walks over, hands it to him, and then starts yelling at Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. So I still believe that all of that is going to be going down the line to, at some point, Cody getting into it with Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. NXT No Mercy is on Sunday from Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. NXT title, special referee, Trick Williams, Ethan Page against Joe Hendry. I think Ethan Page has been a very good NXT champion. I think he comes across great. I think when it's time for the show to move to the CW, I think he would still be a perfect champion to have. I don't know if they're going to do that by the time that point comes, but I don't believe that he's going to lose the title to Joe Hendry tonight. That's for sure. Special referee in the match, like I said, again, Trick Williams. I don't know how long the TNA NXT thing is going to be going on for, again, with NXT putting all of its focus into the big shows coming up, and I believe, Chicago and St. Louis for their debut in the beginning of October on the CW. I think they are going to be looking at that, and I can't see how anybody, even a Joe Hendry, can really help them in that. So I think Ethan Page beats Joe Hendry here. Maybe there's some miscommunication somehow between Trick and Joe Hendry that can lead to a match between them or some sort of situation with them as the September kind of winds itself out, if you wanted to go in that direction. But the bottom line is I think Ethan Page holds on to the title. NXT Women's title, Roxanne Perez against Jada Parker. I love Jada Parker. She's going to be a star. She looks like a star, carries herself like a star. She's fantastic. More reps, awesome. One person you want to get reps against is somebody like Roxanne Perez, who is a literal prodigy at this sort of thing, a grizzled veteran already at this very young age. She's somebody that should be on the main roster. At some point, she will be on the main roster, but unless you're going to move her to the main roster on Monday, no point in having her lose this title to Jada Parker, especially because on NXT, we had some drama after Jada slapped the dog out of Roxanne and knocked her to the floor. We had Jada talking to somebody and Roxanne giving a look up at some mystery person, and I would assume that it was not Rosemary who wrestled on that show. I believe it would either be Stephanie Vacker or it's going to be Julia making an appearance after that match takes place. NXT North American title, Obafemi against Tony D'Angelo. This is another one. I don't see a reason to take the title off of Obafemi. I mean, you could do that, have him slip on a banana peel or something like that so you could continue the feud between these two. But to me, unless you got somebody really ready who you want to push, Javon Evans or somebody like that maybe, I'm keeping the title on Obafemi. Got a couple of more matches coming up on No Mercy, as well as a whole lot of other stuff to get into when we get back. Wrestling Observer Live. Sempervive here with you, Wrestling Observer Live. No filthy Tom Lawlor today because he's in Washington, D.C., getting ready for New Japan Capital Collision. No Bryan either because he's at the fair right now doing some good dadding. He should be back with Dave Meltzer, I would assume at some point on Saturday afternoon, either on Saturday or maybe after the No Mercy show on Sunday. Just pay attention to WrestlingObserver.com. Find out all the information there. I'll give you information later on how you can become a subscriber as well. I don't know if you're a subscriber or not to TNA Plus, but if you are, TNA Emergence is going to be streaming tonight on that platform from Old Forester's Paristown Hall in Louisville, Kentucky. TNA World Title Iron Man match. Nick Nemeth against Josh Alexander. Looking forward to that one. I'd assume it's going to be a full half hour. They went to a draw on the Impact show. I think it was 2 weeks ago now. Nemeth and Alexander did. They're both really, really good, and I really like Josh Alexander a lot. So if you're a fan of the wrestles, that's a really good one. If you're a fan of the over-the-top stuff, they got you covered there too. Ultimate X match for the X Division title. Speedball Mike Bailey defends against Laredo Kid, Zachary Wentz, NXT's Riley Osborne, Jason Hotch, and Hammerstone, who definitely is going to be the base of that whole group. No 450s, I hope, coming off the top of a ladder from Alexander Hammerstone. 6-woman tag team match. Jordan Grace and Spitfire, Danny Luna and Jody Threat will face Ash by Elegance and the Militia, which is Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich. And I'm always entertained by Alicia Edwards, especially as she hides behind the psychopathic Masha Slamovich. I think it's fantastic. 8-man tag team match. The Hardys, Joe Hendry and Mike Santana against The System, which is Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, Moose, and JDC, the former Fandango. Johnny Curtis in his new role there as part of The System. If there's going to be any NXT presence whatsoever, it's probably going to be in that match. Also on the show, Eric Young will face off against Steve Macklin. The pre-show begins at 7:30 Eastern Time and features Kushida against Frankie Kazarian. There's another one that's going to be good for the wrestles. And PCO takes on a mystery monster as chosen by Matt Cardona. Like I always say, could it be Omos? Maybe. But that mystery monster, during Thursday night's Impact show on Access, Cardona announced that he is not medically cleared to compete, which opened the door for this mystery monster to make his appearance to battle PCO for the digital media title and the International Heavyweight Championship, which I can't even remember what that belt was about, but there you go. It's for 2 belts. On Thursday's go-home show, also, Knockouts champion Jordan Grace retained her title by defeating Ash by Elegance in a no-DQ Falls Count Anywhere match. Speedball Mike Bailey also retained the X Division title, defeating Rich Swann in a pretty good match. Joe Hendry beat Brian Myers, but was attacked afterwards by Myers and Eddie Edwards until Santana made the save. That was followed by Santana beating Edwards, and also on the show, Alexander Hammerstone beat Eric Young, and Chris Bay and Ace Austin, those are 2 guys that I would have liked to have seen in NXT and would still like to see in NXT, putting on some matches against Nathan Frazier and Axiom or whoever. I'd really like to see them against somebody. They're going to be, they lost to, or they beat Cody Deaner and Jake something, and after the match they were jumped by Swan and AJ Francis, but I cannot wait until they, frankly, get a bigger chance to shine. Every time they had a chance to in New Japan Pro Wrestling, I thought they did a good job of it, but got to loop back around here to the NXT predictions. Speaking of tag teams, Chase U, Andre Chase and Rich Holland against Axiom and Nathan Frazier. I would believe that Chase U holds on to the belts here. They were teasing Axiom and Nathan Frazier, kind of butting heads against each other. No excuses now. They should be well rested. They had a win last week over Chase U's Riley Osborne and Duke Hudson. So Axiom and Nathan Frazier should be on the same page here. If they lose, will that still be the case? We'll find out. I would love to see singles matches with those guys as well, too. Women's North American title, Kalani Jordan against Wendy Chu. I like Kalani Jordan. I think Kalani Jordan's got a great look. I was really surprised they decided to put the North American title on her. I don't believe, since they have put the North American title on her, they have had her in there with the best of opponents and the best of stories here with the dolls and all that nonsense, which has led to this match here with Wendy Chu. Kalani Jordan, I hope, does not lose this belt to Wendy Chu. If she does, I don't know. I don't know. This whole deal has been not very good. The Chu knocking her out, stealing Jordan's belt and putting it in the pillow and knocking somebody out and then getting knocked. Just the whole thing has been kind of whack here. So to me, if you want to do something with Kalani Jordan's title reign, give her a clear, quick victory here and then moving on to somebody else. Zachary Wentz against Wes Lee will also be on this show. Zachary Wentz looking for revenge over Wes Lee, breaking up the Rascals, breaking up the return of MSK, and I would believe that Wes Lee gets the victory here, although do you lose anything if there's interference from somebody, or there's something here where Wes Lee loses? To me, if you're going to give NXT something or give TNA something in all of what's going on, because I don't believe that Joe Hendry is going to be walking around with that NXT title around his waist. I mean, maybe this is a way you could do it by giving Wentz a win over Lee here. I guess we'll find out. A lot of other stuff this weekend. As I mentioned, New Japan, Capital Collision, where Filthy Tom Lawlor is right now. Strong World title. Mercedes Moné against Momo Watanabe. This is a good show, and I have a feeling, I just keep thinking, I just looked at it again. I wonder if it gets lost in the mix over this weekend. A lot of people talking about the TMDK, Virus, and Hechicero match, but there's a couple of really good ones on here. I mean, Mercedes and Momo Watanabe ought to be pretty good, although, again, those matches, some of Mercedes' matches, I'm sorry, since she is come onto the indie scene, onto New Japan, onto AEW, it's been a little bit of hit and miss here. We'll see how it goes with Watanabe. Strong title, though, that I am really looking forward to. I think this is going to be the best match on the show. Leo Rush challenging Gabe Kidd for the strong title. I love everything about that match. Hiromu Takahashi faces Mustafa Ali. As I mentioned, the strong tag team titles, TMDK against Virus and Hechicero. Tetsuya Naito against TJP. We'll see how that one goes. Zack Sabre Jr. against Titan. Fred Rosser and Filthy Tom against Royce Isaacs and Jarrell Nelson. And Kevin Knight, Rocky Romero, and Yoshihashi against Clark Connors, Drilla Maloney, and David Finlay, who was on the show with us a couple of days ago. Also on the main card, a number one contenders match for the strong tag team titles. Bad Dude Tito, Robbie Eagles, Hiroshi Tanahashi and Tomohiro Ishii, and James Drake and Zach Gibson, the grizzled young veterans. Kickoff show, Mina Shirakawa. Apparently, you got to have Mina Shirakawa on your show now. If I'm New Japan, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but probably a pretty smart idea, putting around the pre-show and the YouTube show and trying to get people to order Shirakawa and Hanako against Trish Adora and Viva Van. Also on the kickoff show, a strong Survivor match between Matt Vandergriff and Alan Breeze. So there you go. That's the show coming up on New Japan Plus, or not New Japan Plus, but the NJPW World Service. You can order it through there. Filthy was in action last night too. Didn't turn out too well though, unfortunately. Hopefully he can turn the tide tonight. Last night he was at the MLW show, the Summer of the Beasts show, which streamed live for free on YouTube from the Melrose Ballroom in Queens, New York. New MLW World Tag Team Champions were crowned. Akira Kwan and Minoru Suzuki of the Contra unit defeated Okamura and Satoshi Kojima to win the title. The main event was the Opera Cup quarterfinal match, which saw Mystico defeat Atlantis Jr., Other quarterfinal matches saw Kenta advance with a win over Akira. Bad Dude Tito defeated Alex Kane. And sadly, Filthy Tom Lawlor will not make it to the semifinals, dropping his match to DJP. So Also on last night's show, Donovan Dijak made his debut in MLW, laying out everyone who was involved in a four-way scramble match. So Dijak getting out there a little bit more. Hard to believe that he wouldn't show up on an AEW show. I kind of hope he's one of those guys that would show up in New Japan first, just because he can make a splash there. Filthy and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Bobby Lashley and what his options could be. And I would assume for Dijak is going to make a lot more money here in the States, and at his age and all that stuff, maybe with family, he doesn't want to travel to Japan. Okay, but New Japan, David Finlay's good. You got Gabe Kidd there. You got a handful of guys, but who is the dominant foreigner right now? Yes, it's Zack Sabre Jr., but what else do they really kind of have there? And I think Donovan Dijak could be somebody that could be very valuable because, again, we've seen him work with almost every type of worker out there, from the smallest guys who fly around to big guys who he can go in there and thump with. He usually, holds up his end of the deal really well. So Donovan Dijak, at least for right now in MLW, he's aligned with St. Laurent's World Titan Federation unit. Brock Anderson also made his MLW debut yesterday, the son of Arn Anderson. He teamed up with C.W. Anderson, no relation, in a win over Love Doug and Jay Leone. So Brock Anderson a couple of days ago talked about his time in AEW, how it just didn't work out for him. He didn't have a chance to really develop there or anything like that. Now he's certainly going to have that opportunity if this is something that he wants to pursue, being out there on the independent scene. He's got the name to go. So obviously Court Bauer, a guy who, big fan of pro wrestling for a long time, he goes back into the past, knows the name Anderson is important. Yeah, you bring in C.W. Anderson, who was an old ECW guy and who was the only guy for a little while carrying on the legacy of the Anderson name there for a little bit. But they're going to be teamed up, it seems like, here in MLW. Also on the show, Janai Kai retained the Women's World Featherweight title and win over Hanako. Matt Riddle defeated Matthew Justice, and I didn't see this match, although some people are saying this was by far the best match on the entire show, was between Riddle and Justice, and Paul London defeated Brett Ryan Gosselin. So that's what took place on the MLW show. Again, I don't know how you're going to have time with this weekend, but it is streaming for free and up for free on the MLW YouTube page. New Japan has announced their second trip into New England. Fighting Spirit Unleashed is going to take place on November 8th from Lowell Memorial Auditorium in Lowell, Massachusetts. New Japan has not been to that part of the country since August of 2019. No matches or talent have been announced yet, but the tickets are going to be on sale next Friday, September 5th, between $25 and $300. So there you go. We'll be back to put a bow on this thing when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live.
Welcome to the special tour of Figure 4 Weekly Headquarters, as promised. Today I will be accompanied by my assistant Vincenzo, so let's get moving. Hey, don't worry about it. Today's a special day, I'll drive. Vince, today's gonna be a good day, so let's not F anything up, okay? Now, I'd like to tell everybody I just want to give a short speech on the way to the compound here today. And that is that we are going through very tough economic times right now. Right, Vince? It's time of stock market crashing, the yen is devalued, a time of woe and want. And many of you watching this right now, for all I know, are unemployed. But the good thing is, and I always like to look on the bright side, as Vince is well aware, the good news is that for every dark cloud, there is a silver lining. And the silver lining is that Figure 4 Weekly is doing great. It's a huge success right now. Subscriptions are up, quality is down, profit margins are skyrocketing, things are going very well. So, the one thing is that I don't want to make it seem like money is everything, because money cannot buy happiness, but what it can buy is enormous houses, and that makes me happy. So, we will be going to see my enormous house, the Figure 4 Weekly compound, and that's where we're heading right now.
Mike Sempervive here with you. Wrestling Observer Live, last show before Tuesday. But if you want all of the wrestling news that you can handle, if you want all of the Bryan Alvarez and Dave Meltzer that you can handle, you need to become a subscriber to WrestlingObserver.com. F4WOnline.com. I don't know if FTheSnow.com works anymore. That was a thing for a while. $14.99 gets you everything that the site has to offer, including the incredible archives of audio and back issues of both Wrestling Observer newsletter and Figure 4 Weekly, plus a ton of site-exclusive podcasts and other content. Twitch, you get one free subscription as part of their Twitch Prime, so you can use that on us. Go to twitch.tv/F4W video, hit subscribe. It'll ask you if you want to use Amazon Prime. Just say yes. Wrestling Observer Live, Brian and Vinny, Figure 4 Daily, and more. You can do it that way if you want, or if you only want video live and on demand through YouTube, because Google is your overlord. I don't blame you. YouTube TV, NFL Sunday Ticket, I can feel you. You can do that, $9.99. You can just go ahead through F4W Video, their YouTube site, and you can find that. And select podcasts are also available through both Spotify and iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe that way, $9.99 for those. For all of the information that you need to know, just head on over to WrestlingObserver.com. A lot of wrestling this weekend. And a lot of football. And I got to keep it a buck with you. Even though there's all of this wrestling, I'm still excited for the college football. Sorry, it's just the way it goes. That's how I am. And I am Mike Sempervive. And I want to thank all of you out there for watching and listening. We shall talk to you again after a while.